quite an interesting venue, isn't it? It's like a ballroom, classic ballroom. First of all, welcome to Manchester. I had the privilege of serving in Manchester for 22 years, so I was able to find a car parking space in a car park other than the one I was assigned to. First of all, welcome. It's a great turnout, and I know we're going to have a really good day. I'm just going to run through where we've got to, but I think today is more around what's next and how we were able to actually mobilise people in this room to deliver the citizens and policing strategy. First of all, I'm a volunteer. I volunteered to be the national lead for citizens and policing, and I also volunteered to go to South Yorkshire. I'll let you decide which of those two was a good decision. This is today around making sure that we understand where we are in relation to volunteering as it links to the police service, and our strapline, which is about connecting communities to policing and policing to communities. What it should be is a focused attempt to try and embrace and enhance people who want to volunteer within policing, but also those that are allied to us as well. What it shouldn't be is volunteering for volunteering's sake. I've got to thank Claire, who works with me closely on this for the Minions. I'm not quite sure which one of those I am. Probably the one over there, shouting. There's an opportunity for us, rather than an evolution, to do a bit of revolution around the way in which volunteering is thought about within policing. And there's a wide agenda linked into the government's attempt to mobilise us all into social action. The advantage we have is volunteering is definitely in our DNA as a society, and nearly 32 million people last year volunteered in some capacity. But one size doesn't fit all, and this is about making sure that we identify the need that we're trying to fill, both from the perspective of the volunteer, it's a two-way street, and they get out of linking in with us in the same way that the service and our communities get the right skills, experiences, and fill some of the gaps that we may have. So why did we do this in the first place? Policing is far too important to be left to the police alone, and it definitely has to be a community-wide effort. And our volunteers make a huge difference to the way in which we provide our services, not just within policing, but in our wider society, in education, in health, and also they tend to be the people who pull you out of the water, pull you out of the cave, and pull you off a mountain. And volunteer does not mean amateur in any way, shape or form. We know that our Special Constabulary, for example, deliver over 3.5 million hours of policing, and that is a huge contribution to the police service. Events like the Tour de France, the Olympics, have all been delivered in partnership with our volunteers. So currently, this is what we thought we had when we started. Some of those figures are accurate. We'll get onto the benchmarking in due course, but that is a significant community that we're all linked into and have responsibility for. I do like to quote the Neighbourhood Watch in particular. They reach out to, and I make this up every single time, it's always an increasing figure, Kate, of about 3.2 million households in this country. There's a huge reach that we need to make sure we're making the most of it. But some of the issues that we found at the beginning was there was a lack of consistency, lack of standards, lack of a plan, and lack of clarity around where we were trying to go. And there was no evidence base. I was reflecting the other day when I was talking to somebody about the state of policing in this nation, and I think I remember, and I've spotted Jerry, who was on a sergeant's course with me many, many years ago in Crewe, that I think we were told that policing was more art than science. About time it became more science than art. And today's event, particularly with the university, is testament to our desire to have an evidence base. So we started out, the citizen policing community of practice is an eclectic mix of as many people as you can think about, from the Home Office to the Federation to Neighbourhood Watch to Cinema Network, and we tend to agree on everything, particularly the Home Office. But it is a really good group to actually test where we think we're going. And also, we've been very fortunate to have people who've helped us along the way, like David Hughes, I think he's moved seat now. That's not fair. Where's he gone? He's there. Who helped deliver the Olympics volunteering programme. So we started out by trying to specify what exactly it is that we were looking for, wrapped around in a vision, and making sure that we do the benchmarking, speak to everybody involved and develop a national strategy. We also, and I was very keen to ensure that we listen to the people who are actually volunteering. So we were very fortunate to be able, with the university, to do a national survey, the largest that's ever been conducted. And we also know that the operating environment is so fluid at the moment, both around finances, the challenging threat that we have around terrorism, but also the desire for the government in particular to transform the police service. And I think some of the stuff we've been trying to do through volunteering will help deliver that. And Northamptonshire University and Ian and Laura in particular kindly delivered me a document called 2030 Vision, which was a bit like Mystic Meg, but it was very thought-provoking around where we want to go and has helped inform some of the strategy. Whilst we've been doing that, clearly we haven't been sat on our hands. We've had 3 successful police innovation bids, which have allowed us to actually create, hopefully in due course, a national volunteering website for the policing community, and also raising the profile of volunteers, but also making sure that the specialist constabulary in particular, its skills, its experiences, are actually captured and fed into the national effort through the National Police Operating Centre. So in the event of any major events, then we can call on our special colleagues in a far more effective way than we have done previously. And we would hope to expand that to volunteers in due course. And we're also working very closely with Ed, who's in the room, around the cadets, which is a hugely ambitious, and quite rightly so, ambition to get the number of cadets doubled by 2020, I think it is. And that will equate to something like 1 million hours of volunteering just from the police cadets. They identify about 30% of people from disadvantaged communities and making a real effort for people, diverting them away from becoming customers of the regular police service. So where we started off was also making sure that we could actually focus on the things that we probably had a little bit more control around. So in the first box, large amount of specials, police support volunteers and cadets, and that's been the focus to begin with, but clearly we want to move across to make sure that we effectively engage, work with and deliver a really good outcome for the communities through working with all those various groups. So all of this helped form the strategy. There's some of the results from the survey that's been available for a while now, but I think it's an overall positive result. But I think one of the things that really did come out was that we're pretty poor at managing volunteers, and that's a key area that we will need to focus on through the strategy. The other thing we wanted to do is actually do a bit of benchmarking, and I won't steal people's thunder who will be speaking about this later, but clearly the figures that we had don't relate to reality, the difference between establishment and strength, and also how much money is actually being spent in these particular areas, all of which will inform identifying some gaps that we need to fill. We're not naive, we know that this has been looked at previously, yet another initiative in this area, but I think what we're trying to do is build a solid foundation, and this will take us to about 2030 ultimately. The benchmarking gives us an outline of the current situation, so it's now around shaking things up a little bit more, learning from colleagues in other sectors and being a bit bold and testing new ideas, and you'll hear a lot around some of those new ideas today around various pilots that are taking place. So we do think we're at base camp. Last week, a rare event, unanimously, all the chiefs in the country supported the new citizen policing strategy. I will be holding them to account in due course, because they have a habit of doing that sometimes. And we will build a structure to make sure that the implementation plan is constantly being challenged and refreshed and reported back to the various interested stakeholders. So the strategy has been signed off now. It's gone through the College of Policing, it's gone through APCC, it's gone through Uncle Tom Cobley and all. We now have the campaign plan. So we know we're going to invade France. We're now into all the detail around which beach, where, when, and how many people we're going to need, etc., and who's going to be in charge. The benchmarking will help with some of that. The survey gives us an idea of what our people think about currently, about how they're being treated, and obviously the PIF bids form part of that. On a one page, the strategy's been readily available, and we'll give details if people haven't seen it, but it builds on 5 key C's, which is around, as you can see there, what's our capacity, what's the contribution the volunteering can make, what are our existing capabilities, what are the ones we haven't got, and again you'll hear stuff around some of the pilots for how we can exploit the skills that people want to volunteer into policing. And we've seen examples of that in the digital age with people with cyber skills. And I think Hampshire and Gloucestershire are doing some pilots around that. And I know the City of London uses some of their volunteers in a very unique way from an economic crime perspective. Consistency is a key one. We really struggle to actually get forces to identify what they have, and that's part of the benchmarking exercise. But I think citizens who receive a policing service shouldn't be postcode lottery. There should be a degree of consistency across the piece, but it shouldn't stifle innovation either. And I think really key is connectivity, because, again, use the Neighbourhood Watch as an example. Does every force in the country really understand the capabilities and capacity of the Neighbourhood Watch when it can reach into 3.8 million households? So it grew by 600,000 just as I spoke. That's a huge network that we need to develop with Kate and the team. So we're now talking about what's next. So it's about consolidating the work today, building a longer-term infrastructure. And I've just been chatting to a few people. I think that's a key issue across all the forces and nationally as well. In fairness to the College of Policing, I think there's Ed and that's it. And I think that one of the lessons we've learned from the cadet scheme in particular is if you've got a core team who can deliver a national product that's actually then sort of scalable to different people, you're in a position to deliver the plans that you've set out to do. We need to prioritise the next phases of work, establish some working practices and governance arrangements, and again around resourcing and a potential bid to the transformational fund that's available, because I do think this will transform the police service if we get our act together. And we do definitely need to integrate this work with partners' development plans like the Neighbourhood Watch and some of the faith-based groups. And then we need to obviously consult on the implementation plan and communicate and market that in due course. So the potential infrastructure is what we're seeking to develop next, and that's around a kind of directing role. In policing terms, this is a kind of gold, silver, bronze approach, where there'll be a strategic group that will set the direction to deliver the actual strategy, and then various work streams to actually deliver that strategy in due course, probably with KitCop being the advisory group to that goal group. That will set clear direction, populate the work plan, and will support forces' own people to be more innovative and work more cohesively, and hopefully apply for resources to support local pilots as well. We're also very keen that we do the research and developing the evidence base, and that's with a very close working relationships with Northamptonshire University in particular, with Ian and Laura, who are very generous with their support to this programme. Long may it rain. And that's about making sure that we understand what the research says. So when we start talking about, does it make sense to pay volunteers like specials? What about what is the best way of actually managing specials or volunteers? What's the evidence base around a whole host of issues that people have been batting around for a long time? And let's go with the evidence, which might be a novel idea. And then actually making sure we're reaching out internationally as well for some of our colleagues across the world who've been doing similar sorts of work. And we saw some of that when we did the National Specials conference in Wales a few months back. And again, I think with the College of Policing in particular, building on what works, making sure that we embed that as a national practice, and that we're in a position to provide consistency across the service. Nobody suggests it's going to be easy. I do like that quote. But I do think there is an opportunity now that we can clearly define the role as we see of volunteering within policing, integrating that far more effectively into the wider volunteering network across the nation, developing a resource base and making sure that we provide the opportunity for people to volunteer for what is a very, very attractive proposition. I don't think we're short of people who want to get involved in policing, because fundamentally our role is to keep people safe and make sure we provide the best possible opportunity for our community to thrive. So I think the time now is to see things slightly differently than we perhaps have done before, make it attractive both for the service and volunteers to build on the strategy that we've developed, and hopefully provide the best possible experience for people who engage with policing. So I suppose that to sum it up, it's a bit like saying that we should shake it up a little bit innovative. We were very fortunate at Chiefs Council last week to get a talk from a guy called Matthew Syed, who's written a book called Black Box Thinking. If you haven't read it, read it. It's excellent. It talks about the difference between the aviation industry and the health industry, The aviation industry constantly learns from its mistakes. It encourages people to raise issues of concern, and it's still the safest form of transport in the world. 1 in 3.5 million departures leads to a crash. We have the equivalent of a jumbo jet crashing every day in the health service across the world, because the health service refuses to acknowledge, or the gods of surgery do anyway, that there's any way that they could have been mistaken and that somebody's died on their surgical table. So it's about changing the culture and making sure we encourage people to try things, not lambast them if it doesn't work, but also make sure we go away from the fact that the service in particular is a habit of having nothing but successful pilots. From a very early age in policing, I recognised that if you were going to do a burglary operation, it didn't really matter if you didn't arrest any burglars, as long as you arrested somebody for something, it was then decided to be successful. So there's a genuine desire by the team that I'm working with, and I know the wider network, that there's huge opportunities to take advantage of what other people are doing, but make sure that that actually delivers our ultimate aim, which is to keep our communities safe and providing the best opportunity for people who volunteer within policing. I think I'm probably around my time, so that's it from me. And I hope at some point I'll be able to get around and speak to everybody. And I don't see a Q&A session, but at some point that might be useful if you could squeeze it in. But thank you very much and enjoy the day.